Buildings use about a third of total energy, 2/3 of electricity. They're responsible, depending on where you are, for a lot of the greenhouse gas emissions. I was at a little college down in Tennessee where they had done their carbon footprint, and their buildings were 90% of their carbon emissions. So I think it's worth spending some time thinking about how do we do buildings right, which led to the creation of a phrase called green development. It is a whole systems approach to the built environment that includes land use planning, the site selection, the construction, transportation, energy, water, etc. You ask, first of all, why am I doing this development? And is this the appropriate site on which to do it? Am I dealing with this piece of ground in the way that this ground wants to be dealt with? What is the habitat? What is the surrounding community? Transportation, how do you get stuff to the site? And is the stuff locally made? And how are the people who are going to be there going to move themselves around? And then what will become of the building over time? If you're dealing in the tropics, you add a whole set of issues, from integrating the structure with its building site to on-site wastewater treatment, drought-tolerant gardening, edible plant landscaping. And when you do this right, you actually get a better product. Good green buildings help build your brand. So for example, the Botanical Research Center on Kauai got a lot of free press because it was LEED certified, because it has solar on the roof, because it was simply a better designed building. Or the Aldo Leopold Legacy Center, which is what's called a net zero building. It produces at least as much energy as it uses. It's a LEED platinum building, 70% less energy. That makes it much more cost effective to meet the energy with renewables, and produces more energy than it uses. Or an eco-office in Rhode Island, where they took an old jewelry factory and rebuilt it to be a net zero building. And it works because it's earth sheltered, it's passive solar, and it was built with no subsidies. Or the Science Museum in Minnesota, another net zero building, 60% more efficient than code, solar, ground source heat pumps. Del Sur, this is a community near San Diego, 1,000-acre master planned community, 3,000 eco-friendly homes. One of the things they're finding is that when they have solar homes, the resale value is 20 to 40% higher within a year or two. Net zero homes are popping up across the country and around the world. Sydney, Australia, the town has pledged to cut its carbon emissions by 60% by 2030. So the Kent Brewery project is now considered the greenest building in Oz. It's a carbon neutral development. And check out Masdar, Abu Dhabi. Now these guys have oil, and they are figuring to build the greenest city in the world, 50,000 people, car-free, zero waste. And it'll be a center for renewable energy businesses. The people in the Emirates believe that carbon is going to be the new currency, and they want in on it. Building green cuts your costs. We know how to make any existing building 3- to 4-fold more efficient, new ones 10 times as efficient. The Act Squared house in the Central Valley of California. In the summer when it's hot, the neighbors come into this building with no air conditioning because it's cooler than the surrounding buildings with air conditioning. We now know that good green buildings will give you 6 to 16% higher labor productivity. They will also give you healthier workers. Just improving buildings could cut $58 billion off U.S. healthcare costs and add $200 billion a year in increased labor productivity. So Lockheed built a building. They cut a lot off their energy bill with a 4-year payback. And you say, oh, that's a long time. Listen, a 2-year payback is a 70% return on investment. You tell me where you're going to get that in the stock market. Boeing did a lighting retrofit. It enabled their workers to see better. It cut their error rate by 20%. This is very good news for those of us who fly around on airplanes. What you pay for people is a lot more than what you pay for energy. But what you do to how a building uses energy is what will give you that boost in labor productivity. Green buildings enhance health and well-being. In schools in California, where they've put in measures like daylighting, they get higher test scores. Here's the reason Walmart's going green. They conducted an inadvertent controlled experiment. They half-built a green building. They said, we're going to build a green building. They got halfway through and lost interest. So they had a green half and a, well, not so green half. Surprise, they had 40% higher sales on the green side. what you do inside a building matters almost as much as how you built it. So a company called Portion Pack realized that, first of all, they were very wasteful. They were shipping these jugs of cleaning solution that were mostly water. So instead, they put the concentrate in little packets. They color-coded it so that people for whom English is not their first language would know which chemical to use for which purpose. They're getting them all Green Seal certified to get the toxicity out of the cleaning products, but they do a much better job, for example, on nasty bugs like MRSA. And as a result, this company is now winning contracts in places like schools and prisons and hospitals because it's green.